What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode.
And we're back. Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? And today we've got a special friend. We got Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
There we go. And as always, my wonderful co-host, Jenny. And today we are going to do, a movie that made me laugh when I was a kid, because they played it on HBO a lot, and it has wonderful actors. We are doing 1989's The Dream Team, and it's not the basketball team, boys and girls, of the same name in 1992. Yeah, that did. So, quick synopsis. You have that in front of you, Jenny? Because I don't have it in front of me right now.
I don't have a quick synopsis, but I can find one real quick. Give me a second here. Where is it? This morning they were playing ping pong in the hospital rec room. Now they're lost in New York and framed for murder. This was never covered in group therapy. The Dream Team, 4 guys on a field trip to reality. It was the blurb that was on the movie poster.
That is a really good way of putting this movie. So, yeah, like I said, I remember watching it when it first came out. I mean, summer of '89 was just a good summer for movies. I mean, two actors from these movies, we had Michael Keaton, who I love, who was, my Batman, and Christopher Lloyd, who is, Dr. Emmett Brown. I mean, I love him so much that I named my dog that. And we got Flounder from Animal House. And then what else we got? We got Frankenstein. We have the Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle. And a familiar actor who was in one of our previous podcasts, Batteries Not Included, and I always forget his name. What's his name, Jenny?
Dennis Boutsikaris.
Thank you.
That's how I know it's Dennis. The Boutsikaris part. I'm
Boutsikaris, yes.
It's an outstanding name.
Who is in this movie a total of maybe 20 minutes.
They should have kept that, actually. That's a better name than Dr. Weitzman. Boutsikaris is a great name.
Boutsikaris!
Yeah.
So, like Jenny kind of gave the rundown, these basically these guys in the mental hospital go on a field trip and get lost in New York. It's the age-old tale of kids running amok, but they're not kids; they're adults. So what can we say about this movie? Like I said, watching it as a kid, I remember watching it a lot because it got rerun on HBO and that kind of stuff after it came out. Watching it now, it's a tough watch. And it's not like it didn't age well or anything like that. It's just the world of mental health is a different world, and now we know a lot more things that we really shouldn't be making fun of.
Yeah, it is. Like you gotta right away say this is not a realistic or responsible depiction of mental health at all. It is, however, pretty funny. Like it's
Yes.
I was thinking about it today. I'm like, this is a bad depiction of mental health. But I mean, I've seen worse depictions of mental health in the last decade. So, Shutter Island's way more offensive than this, I think. So there are ways, I forgive it more in a comedy than a drama, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I also think we're all a lot closer to mental health, like breakdown between life, age, and COVID and getting through the Trump administration. We're all lucky that we haven't been locked away, honestly, or actually unlucky that we haven't been locked away, depending on how you view it. It might be a nice vacation.
Jenny, we're not allowed to fucking cuss in this podcast and say that man's name.
I'm sorry.
I've told you about that fucking
the
cussing
creature that was in charge for
Say
a
the
few
T
years.
word.
You can't say the slime's name, or the slime will cream back up.
It's true.
Never
Like,
laughed
names
at
have power.
Yeah. No, just kidding. But no, but seriously, don't say his name. That's how he gets his powers.
He has no powers. He just has money. Anyway,
Not
so the
much of
funny
that
thing
either.
is, well, I guess money is power, but so Stephen First, as you refer to as Flounder in Animal House, I really didn't watch Animal House when I was younger, but I did watch a movie called Midnight Madness, which is a terrible, terrible early 80s, possibly late 70s.
I think it's 1980. It's either
It's early.
80 or 81. But yes,
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Thank you. That's why we're friends, because you like a horrible movie.
I mean, horrible movie it is not.
Which is just an adult scavenger hunt, and he played the bad guy in it. And then also from Babylon 5, he played, was it Veer? The character's name? He was like the sidekick to the ambassador. So so I always love seeing movies with Stephen First in it because he's very underrated. He has one hell of a range, and like he's not nonverbal, but kind of nonverbal in this one. Like he's only speaking in TV.
Yeah.
It's not like batteries are not included where it's just specific commercials and stuff. He can speak in anything TV. He usually likes baseball, but he can say other things as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say his crutch was the being the fan of baseball. So he was almost like a really strange baseball announcer. I mean, I'm guessing now he might be diagnosed with like autism, maybe,
Quite
or
possible.
something on the spectrum. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of background on him. Like we don't get a lot of background on like whether he used to be verbal. I think I always had the impression as a kid that like something bad happened to him and he just doesn't talk now. But
they don't give you anything. The only thing you do know is that he's been in that institution for 12 years.
Quite a while.
Yeah, and that's the one thing rewatching it now as an adult that I didn't catch obviously as a kid. They do glaze kind of like, okay, so we know that apparently Michael Keaton's character was a has-been hockey player, but it mentioned I thought
he was a writer.
He was a writer.
He's an author, yeah.
He would say that he was a hockey player because he beat up a referee on the hockey field.
Oh,
which I believe was the thing that got him stuck in the institution. But yeah,
okay.
So yeah, he was actually a writer.
See, there you go. That again, that's because it's just so weird how they kind of just bounce all over the place with his character. And you know, what is it? Peter Boyle's character is a ad man who lost it and became Jesus Christ.
Somebody out a window and then decided he was Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then we have a impulsive disorder with Dr. Emmett Brown, I guess, right?
And delusional as well.
And
we have the OCD combined with the fact that he thinks he's a doctor.
In the movie, I think they call him paranoid delusional, but I never got the impression that he was paranoid. I think these diagnoses are not right.
Right. I mean, this was definitely not One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
No.
Though they keep making analogies to it. Like when you read the hype about it, like, or the media about it, like in articles and stuff, they try to compare it to it. But I'm like, it's not the same.
And I think that's why this was not a big success, because people wanted to compare it to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. In my research, I found an old Siskel and Ebert review on it, and they shredded this movie, you know, and they just kept talking about how it's not funny, it's just sad. It's not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is funny. And I'm like, they kept going back on harping that point.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest funny at all. I found that movie fucking terrifying.
Yeah, no,
that's not a funny movie.
And to be clear, okay, I'm my opinion on this movie is not fair. I don't think I can be critical because I loved this movie as a kid, right? I used to watch this all the time. It was one of the first movies I ever owned. But also, man, if you can't find like the combination of Michael Keaton and Christopher Lloyd and Peter Boyle funny, like their comic timing is amazing. Like Peter Boyle especially is such a great straight man in this movie. I just don't even get it.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I totally agree with you.
It's a great cast.
And that's the thing that I did love about this movie when I was a kid, and I love about it now watching it as an adult, was I liked that this movie let every single character shine on their own, because when they split up eventually in New York, and they all kind of go to their own like worlds. It's just so really fascinating how they all just have like these great moments. I mean, Peter Boyle's moment when he goes into that church. I mean, I think
Classic.
it's classic, hilarious. It's a funny clip. I mean,
Also,
it's so
Mitch,
good.
you don't see churches like that depicted in movies anymore. I don't know if the churches went away, but you used to see those churches all the time in 80s movies. Like they were
Yeah.
just everywhere. And those always looked like fun churches. I don't know. When I was a kid, I'm like, why is my church not like that? That looks awesome.
They're called the Grace churches now, apparently.
Well,
I don't know. They won't let me in. I cross and I start, tingling or something.
yeah, I wouldn't fit in very well anymore, but the clapping and the singing is still, I'm on point for that. We can amp it up.
But yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
raised Catholic, so anytime I went to churches that actually had happiness and singing and joy, I was like, the hell?
Something is wrong, right? Yeah, it's all.
This shit's unfair in the Catholic Church. All we do is like genuflect, and then we have a moment where we shake everybody's hands, like, and peace be with you, and also with you, and you start thinking about Star Wars.
I was in Catholic school at one point in time. We were walking to church and, we were kids. We were talking about stuff and we got yelled at by a nun who said, I don't want to hear you guys laughing. I want to hear prayer and sorrow for sins. And I'm like, man, you are fun.
Whoa!
Party. I don't know why more people don't want to go to this thing.
Church is so much fun.
And nuns are wonderful.
Ugh. Yeah,
Everybody who's gone to a Catholic school could tell you a story about a nun. I mean, and they aren't good. But anyway, the kind of like Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, actually. It's what nuns are like. So we'll tie it back in that way. But funny thing is, though, Christopher Lloyd was actually in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right.
Which I forgot until I was reading the trivia, because I've watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest a couple times, but like I said, that movie is horrifying to me. And also, as opposed to a comedy, which they, I don't know why anybody would think it was more of like a commentary on mental health that was still bad back then. And, still the scary things. So if you think about it, so like we have no backstory on Albert Stephen First's character. We just know that he's been in there for like 12, 13 years, was not communicating at all at one point, and is now kind of communicating through gestures and TV commentary. And like, you also, they slide in there like little things that you're not really thinking about. But one of the things that they slide in there, if you listen to the movie, is that all these patients, they were on heavy medication, and they had only been taken off recently.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if they'd only been taken off recently, the progression level of them is amazing. And even though this is not factual and is a comedy, you still think about the difference between just drugging a problem and actually working with a problem, and the difference you would get there. And just the thought that you could be locked up forever, which is like also like Billy Caulfield, which is Michael Keaton's character, who I assume was sentenced there. When you get sentenced for mental health, like your sentence is kind of indefinite. Like you don't get like 3 years or time off of good behavior. They give you a minimum amount, but as you get evaluated, you could be there forever. Like if you have a bad doctor, especially that hates you, you could be there forever. So yeah, this movie is not as funny as it was when I was a kid, because that sadness and that realization is there, and it's kind of scary then.
It's weird. I obviously I never noticed this as a kid, but having seen a lot of movies about, mental illness and it's sort of centered around that, this movie actually kind of has a lot of affection, for the idea of like the therapy process and the recovery process. It's funny, the opening of this movie I think is classic, like super good, right? I mean, they right up until 10 seconds before group, you totally buy Christopher Lloyd as a therapist. And so when you then see Dr. Weissman walk into the room and he has such a calm reaction to the chaos going on in there, you're like, oh, well, that guy's probably a great therapist. Like he's probably awesome. So I don't like, again, it's not, and that's kind of why I like this movie more so than any other depiction that you could see from the 80s of this sort of thing, is because, it doesn't hold up, obviously. And obviously it's inaccurate, but the characters never really are the punchline, right? Like it doesn't really punch down at them. It kind of treats them as inadvertently amusing, and sort of the rest of the world dealing with them is more the punchline. And I think that's kind of nice.
It is, and I agree. They
I
don't punch
totally
down.
agree.
They're not making fun of them for being ill. They actually,
Yeah.
and also the same note, when they're walking around the city, other people aren't treating them like they're crazy either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're
Well,
just
I mean, it helps that they're in New York City in the 80s, but
right.
I mean,
you
a
know,
great example of that was, they go to the police station and they
and
talk to
then
that
the
sergeant.
authority treats them like
I mean,
like,
and he's like, we're mental patients, and the guy's just like, so
yeah. I literally last night, I'm like, actually, that's much more realistic than I thought it was. I think that
mean,
tracks.
like, yeah, another factual depiction of cops just ignoring somebody being like,
I
"We
mean, it
have
was
a
just like,
problem."
wow. And
Yep.
not until, like, obviously, because all right, so we'll just give the quick overview. Like we talked about, they are going to a ball game. The doctor takes, sees a crime happen, right? He sees somebody get shot. He gets beat up, and the guys are kind of left in New York.
And to be further explaining how they
Yeah.
got left, so like he and Albert left, or Albert, sorry, nonverbal,
Yeah.
go because Albert has to use the
Gotta
restroom
pee.
and there's only an alley. And Albert wanders off after he has the doctor turn his head, and the doctor goes looking for him, witnesses a murder, gets the shit kicked out of him for witnessing the murder. And Albert's the only one who knows what happened to the doctor. So the other three mental patients are sitting in the van with no clue. And Albert can't tell them what happens. Like there's this nice scene that they just kind of compile, like they were clearly sitting in the van for hours waiting for the doctor to come back. And they're like, all right.
Right, because you saw the sun come up and going down, which that is one of my favorite Michael Keaton lines in it. When they're just all sitting there, and he's like, "Man, these seats are great at the ballpark." But you know one thing I miss? Where's the vendor? I want a hot dog.
It's really weird that he hasn't come by.
He hasn't come by. I mean, just the way he delivers those lines in that scene is just like, man, I love you, Michael Keaton. You're so good.
You know what I loved about Michael Keaton's character, though? Again, about not punching down. Like he does clash with the other members of his group, especially with the authority member, which is Christopher Lloyd's character pretending to be a doctor. But in general, he doesn't, go after them, except for when he's really stressed and in jail. But even like the first scene where you run into his character, he's playing ping pong with a guy who's clearly impaired, probably on Thorazine. And he's been super patient and really nice to him. Like,
Yeah, he's super complimentary.
But Christopher Lloyd comes in and starts giving him, rules and declarations. And then he like turns into a total prick. Like puts a cigarette on the ping pong table, flicks it at Christopher Lloyd. But as soon as he leaves, he goes back to being really nice to the poor impaired dude that he's supposed to be playing ping pong with, but really is just hitting the ball towards the guy. And then the guy's paddle comes like 10 minutes later.
Well, I mean, I guess we established that Michael Keaton's character just hates authority.
Yeah.
And
has a low tolerance level.
Yeah.
And it's short fuse.
It's short fuse. And so essentially you've got
and fantasy issues, but
and you've got,
I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah, you got Christopher Lloyd's character who is just like anal retentive and just carries that clipboard around and
the snitch.
Yeah, writes his report about everything. Yeah. I mean, one of my nephews might end up becoming his character in real life because I see it in him.
It was really weird to me watching this again, being like, oh, I did not realize how much like I based my whole personality on this movie. I gotta rethink that.
Well, now you have to explain your logic there.
No, I did. Like I think
for a set of Malkavians in the LARP, though. By the way,
I absolutely. No, I feel like this movie hit me at just the right point where I was like, no, Billy Caulfield, he's a great guy. Like, he has a lush fantasy life, and he gets mad at assholes, and he gets to throw chairs. So that's I'm for that. It's not maybe in the healthiest way I've ever learned to express myself, but man, for a while there, I think I was a lot like that. But-
chair throwing is.
Yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
not
I
the
mean,
best
not to
way to
beat
express
up any
yourself, but
umpires, I mean, it's better than
Since we're
people
wrestling.
throwing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely better than people throwing.
Jerry Springer
On a
show.
list of yeah.
Jerry. No.
Was
But
it
I
the
mean,
Boondocks where was it Riley who said, I bet you don't even have to hit anybody with the chair. You could just throw it and they'll start a round.
Yeah. Timing, man.
but yeah, there's the way these after they get framed for murder and they band together. It's I don't know. It's very endearing the way they just will actually just make sure to just take care of each other. I mean, they tried going to authorities, and that didn't go nowhere. And come to find out that the people who murdered the person were actual cops, dirty cops. So what do they do? They find another way, and they try to find their actual doctor. I mean, and then
Well,
during this,
they even called
Yeah.
into their mental
that's
institution.
right. I forgot about that. They even called into the
Yeah.
mental institution and got the a-hole doctors.
They were like,
Yep.
stop fantasy issues, megalomaniac,
Yeah.
control, So won't even listen to them.
Yeah, I mean, and then they get their revenge on those doctors, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah, that was amazing. But the other thing I started thinking about it is, the way we use labels and like just disregard people, and also like the very scariness of like, no matter what was happening to these people, nobody was going to believe them because of the label of mental illness. And although this was a funny movie and you don't really dwell on that much, when you think about like movies like Gothica, which is a horror movie, that was the whole premise of it, was aside from the ghost spits, was it, these women in this mental institution were being raped and abused by a cop, and nobody was listening to them because they were crazy.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a real, and any kind of label. So, you're a woman, you're just being excitable, you're a minority, and, you're just throwing the race card, it's just, you have a OCD, you're on the spectrum. Well, then there's always negative connotations with the label, always a reason to dismiss you because of it. And it's really scary when you think about it, especially in positions where you have to deal with authority and you need help, and they just won't listen to you, or they'll just throw drugs at you or imprison you,
Yeah, it is distressing how little that theme has changed in the last 40 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is a side note, but like even the impact of the defamation trial that's going on now between Depp and Heard, like what you see men doing now is because the very strong possibility that Heard was lying through most of this is now like, it's like, see women lie, see women lie. It's, never about the fact that, hey, do you think the reason why Depp never went for, to the police or anything about it is because of toxic masculinity, is because people don't listen to people about stories about abuse. But all the story is now is like, oh yeah, see, men can be abused too. Like, yeah, that was what we kind of pointed out in the Me Too movement and about problems with the patriarchies. Yes, we know they can be, and they can't come forward either.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, now men are saying it, so that's so different. Yeah. See, women were saying it,
but
before.
Now they're saying in context of, see, men get abused and women lie,
register.
Which had always been the defense that women lie. It's like,
of course, yeah.
We also tell the truth and get disregarded.
Far more often, in fact.
But if you're rich, white, and famous, you can do a lot more with your words than you can if you're not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just real scary the way people don't listen. But
that is true.
On a lighter note, though, I like how, I forgot if it was you, Joe, or John Paul that mentioned them going off and revisiting their own world once they decide to be brave and leave the van. But you notice the one person who only ventured out a little was Albert, and then he ends up with a man in a chicken costume.
That was his world.
That
no, the
seems like
chicken costume was not his world. That terrified him, and his world was the van.
That's what his world.
That's a good design choice, though, right? Like, I can you imagine if in the middle of that movie we had found out that Albert had like a family and a bunch of kids living in Saskatchewan or something? Like that's too much, I think, for the middle of this movie.
But I mean, you say that, but we found out about Christopher Lloyd's character, and that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That scene with Henry's daughter did not make me cry when I was 10. That's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand.
That was the one thing, like I said, rewatching it now.
Oh, that destroyed me.
I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really tough. This is really tough.
Being his wife or daughter, because think about how he's acting in the mental institution where everything has to be picked up, everything is perfect, and he's nitpicking everything. He probably did that to his wife and kid as well.
Right.
Like, what poor.
But they kind of allude that the daughter's kind of being that way as well. Like she has stuff in order and she wants this certain way. And
that was teacher gives you a sticker if you color things the right color, and she has.
You think? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, you might have saw something I didn't.
I mean, again, that's kind of how I kind of interpreted that. The daughter was kind of.
That's interesting. That the thing he associated with, or the thing that she brought to him was like, here's where I'm following the rules. I don't know if I think that was intentional, but that doesn't mean it wasn't. That doesn't mean it wasn't. That doesn't mean it wasn't intentional.
Right, right. No,
the people who made this movie spent a long time making this movie, longer than I spent watching it.
But again, that especially that scene is just heartbreaking for me. I mean, because you really find out, especially because at the beginning, you get the doctor and said, "Oh, your wife's called," and he just kind of just blows that off.
Yeah.
And then when he actually goes to her, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, okay." So you thought it was just going to be like a bad situation with a wife or whatever.
Yeah.
And it really isn't. She's still very supportive. She still loves him. And then you find out that he has then a daughter to boat into that whole thing. And you're just like, oh, well, then this just changed everything of this character.
Yeah. Like when he said, I thought I'd lost you and I didn't want to find out. I'm like, that you didn't have to get me there. You didn't have to do that, Christopher Lloyd. That hit very different.
Exactly. And when I was young, I didn't quite understand. Like I should have, considering like my parents divorced when I was pretty young, but I didn't quite get what he meant was, basically, I think he thought that she was serving him papers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and I like totally didn't get that. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, if that were the case, there'd be no avoiding it because they would have walked.
Yeah, but it's just such a good and powerful scene. And just like we've talked about, it shows you what great actors these actors are in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just gives you that emotion that you don't see coming in this movie. And that's why, like I said, it surprises me that, like I said, this movie was just disregarded. It got terrible reviews. And honestly, this could become a cult film, or if it's not already. I mean, it's 33 years old. I know a lot of people my age, you guys' age, who know and see this as, oh, I laughed at watching it as a kid and all this stuff. Because movie's 33 years old now?
Yeah.
And I mean, watching it now, I mean, yes, we've got different eyes and everything, but I still think it's still funny. You could still watch some parts of it. I mean, if we showed this to, I don't know, somebody who's never watched it, I think they would still get a good kick out of this movie.
I mean, my wife enjoyed it and she had never seen it before I forced it upon her 2 days ago. She's like, are you sure about this movie? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure about this movie. Yeah, she loved it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you read the description and you're just like, what?
Also, I don't know if anybody's seen the IMDb description for this movie, but it's bad.
What does it say? Go for it.
Holy cow. Okay. So Dr. Weitzman takes 4 mental patients on and out in Yankee Stadium. So far, so good. Billy is a nihilistic author. I'm not sure that was 100% clear, but okay. Henry lost his bearings while working as a mailman. Maybe Jack thinks he's the world's scapegoat. That is a bad description.
That is a bad description.
Yeah. And and then they just call Albert like childlike. I don't think.
No.
It's just very weird. It's a very weird description. They could have done better.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got nihilistic author. And also I thought Henry actually worked for the sanitation department. I think they actually say that in the movie. So I don't think he was a postman.
I thought he was like I thought he managed a post office maybe. but maybe not.
You're wrong, but if you get bored and rewatch it, when they're in the jail cell,
I mean, I'll
when
definitely rewatch it.
when Michael Keaton is gets back from reuniting with Lorraine Bracco, you know, kissing through the plastic, and he's
good.
got hope for himself again. He goes by and he's like, Henry, you went home and you discovered you used to be a sanitation worker. Now it's possible that sometimes I watch things and I hear it's not there. Double
Does he
check
say,
me on it.
does he say not the world's sanitation worker?
Maybe that's what he says
Maybe
instead.
I think
don't
that's what he
know.
says.
I'm not 100% on that. Could be either way. But yeah, it was good stuff. And Albert calls him a shithead.
Yeah.
This is also the first thing I ever saw Lorraine Bracco in.
I saw her in something, and I'm not sure if it came out first, but I saw her in a movie called Sing. Not the cartoon one, obviously, but it was actually about high school students whose high school was closing. And actually, it's the same year. So that movie came out in 1989 as well. And
What month? Because this came out August, I believe.
let me see. Let me look up Sing 1980. And at any rate, she played a teacher in a school with tough kids and stuff. It was pretty interesting.
So kind of like
March 31st, 1989 was the initial release.
okay, so a couple months before this.
Yeah.
I mean,
And also,
and she's been in so many of my favorite movies,
Oh, I see
like
that, yeah.
and shows. I mean, I know.
There was a shrink in Sopranos.
Oh, I mean, she was phenomenal in that. She was great in Goodfellas. Medicine Man, which we talked about the other day, Jenny.
Oh, you mean Bad Medicine?
Oh no, she was a Medicine Man. That's what I was
Medicine Man.
thinking when we were talking about the other day. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Medicine
I
Man
think she was
with Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. No, Bad Medicine was a Steve Guttenberg movie. It was a
Yeah.
comedy.
Pretty
And
sure Medicine Man is the reason that I am against deforestation. That movie really worked on me as a kid.
Oh no, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I bought that thing.
You know, she was in Hackers.
Yeah.
She was really good in Hackers. So again,
The Cars are both really prolific and very underknown, really. Like, I think, well, Lorraine Bracco is probably more known because of Sopranos, but like, I don't think people realize how many other things she was in besides that series. And
she's everywhere.
Obviously Dennis Boutsikaris is not a household name, but he's been in like so much shit and he's still going. Like,
Battery's not included.
Battery's not included.
But she was also in the movie Switched, which I remember as a kid, I was not supposed to watch that movie, but I did watch that movie. Do you guys remember Switch 1991?
But I thought that was Helen something and somebody else, and they switch bodies. So the
Yes,
guy becomes the girl and the girl becomes a guy.
Yes, exactly.
I don't remember Lorraine Bracco in it though. And it's been a
Oh,
long time.
Jimmy Smits. Look at that.
Yes, Jimmy Smith was in it. It's your kind of like Freaky Friday, but you know,
gender swap
but it's definitely a lot more adult oriented. I know why my parents said no, you shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah.
And I did, so.
But it didn't stop.
But I did, you know, so what. But yeah, I don't know. This like I said, this movie, I don't know, it's got so many layers. And I think that's why really now it's hitting me different. And now I'm just like, wow. Again, there are parts that I still laughed at. I didn't laugh as much as I used to remember laughing as a kid. But again, as a kid, and a lot of things made me laugh that were just silly and goofy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, associating different characters from this to other characters in my head, I just put them all together. But I don't know, just the acting in this by each character was so wonderful. I really do enjoy this movie. I mean, I definitely recommend people to watch it and see what their take is on this 33-year-old movie. So I don't know. What do you guys think? And would you recommend this to somebody who's never? I mean, I know you said you showed it to your wife, but what did she think? First view of this.
I mean, I think she liked it every bit as much as I did. Probably not as much as I did when I was a kid, but you know, yeah, she liked it a lot. I always recommend this movie. Like we don't really get this kind of what they used to call like a mid-tier movie anymore, right? Like basically we get indie films and then box office smashes. We don't get so many movies like this anymore.
Right.
But a lot of the movies that I have a lot of affection for as a kid were like this, you know, they were just sort of a little bit of a budget and some modest named actors and that's your movie. And I kind of miss movies like this. I guess you get them more on Netflix now, but
I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree with you, because I mean, one of my things lately is, especially because, you know, the last couple of years we've lived in like hell almost.
a weird dystopia.
Yeah. And you don't get comedies anymore.
No.
And you get movies that are funny, or movies that are like an action comedy or a rom-com. You don't just get comedy. And I miss that. And like you said, mid-tier, like just, you know, mid-level budgets with a whole bunch of different actors.
Yeah.
Or you get over the top. So
trying to think of the last comedy
well.
I saw in the theater, and I
exactly.
I don't know, like I don't remember. I don't even remember the last time I saw comedy.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I just saw that one and I highly recommend it.
I'm dying to see that. I'm dying to see that.
I cannot believe that Hot Dog Fingers made me cry, but the Hot Dog Fingers made me cry. It was so good.
Surprised, but I don't want to take us down that
Unfair.
road. But Joe, put a pin in that, because we probably will have to do that movie for What the Fuck. And I tell you,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm really want to see that movie, because I've heard wonderful things.
So the director for Dream Team was a guy named Howard Ziff, and he died in 2009. It might be Ziff, it's Zieff, so I'm probably terribly mispronouncing his name. But he only directed like 9 movies, but like a lot of them were really iconic. Like, so Private Benjamin was one of his. My Girl 2 was one of his.
Oh,
this
wow.
one, Dream Team, was one of his. A little more obscure movie called The Main Event, which I thought was hilarious.
I don't know that one.
There's another one that's also a little obscure called Unfaithfully Yours. And then there's some that like most people don't know that I like. There's one that's House Calls that I'm sure I saw on TCM at one point, but don't really remember, and Hearts of the West. And then another movie called Slither, not the one we know, that was from 1973.
Yeah, the 73 Slither.
But so like I feel like I have to watch the rest of his stuff, just because like 6 of them I think are really great. So I'm sure the other 3 are probably really good too. But but he's no longer with us, so maybe that's why we don't have movies like this.
I mean, maybe. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Private Benjamin, I really, I mean, I don't want to get in a tangent, but I do love that movie.
Oh yeah.
And I also am a fan of both of the My Girl movies, because, you know, I'm a sap when it comes to sappy movies. So and now watching the leads of both of those movies now all grown up in different projects, and it blows my mind. I'm like, oh, it's so weird. They're adults, which is crazy, because they were probably my age. I mean, you know, recently I went to a convention and I saw Christina Ricci, and that was just kind of like really weird for me, because she's, I think, a year older than I am, and it's weird to me to think that she's a year older than me, but still looks very young, like, and she's a phenomenal actress.
Yeah, I still think of her as the girl from Casper, and like she's basically like 2 years younger than me.
Yeah, yeah. See, I saw her and Devin Swan at this convention, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the kids from Casper, and they were right next to each other. So just like, this is so weird.
Nice.
Oh, but all right. This is to stop the tangent, and we'll wrap up our final thoughts of the Dream Team in 1989. I mean, like I said, we definitely all would recommend it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
enjoy this movie. So
yeah. So my favorite game to play, and this will just because it's fun to wrap up on a fun note. Let's remake this movie now. Who do we cast?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now I have to remember actors' names, so I really. Do we need to recast it? Because we'd only have to really replace Peter Boyle. He's the only one who's gone.
Yeah, he's the only one who got to know. But
so we could just have it remade older, and maybe.
They're still in
be
the
good.
asylum 33 years later.
Got
No,
thrown
that
back
can't
in.
happen.
Billy
That can't
Caldwell had
happen.
another breakdown. I'm sorry.
Are they still doing the dinosaur? Are
For
they
a-
still walking the dinosaur?
For a start, yeah. But for the record, this movie, yeah, I don't think I had ever heard "Hit the Road Jack" before this movie, so that they're indelibly linked in my brain.
Well, and that version is the Buster Poindexter version, which cracks me up.
Yeah. No, who would I put in this movie? I would cast Steve Carell as Dr. Weitzman. He feels like he's got that
Ooh,
like
very nice.
that
I
softness
also
to him.
feel he could be Henry.
Yeah. Yeah, he could.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Who else would I put in this? I don't know any actors younger than me.
See, I would cast probably somewhere James Corden. But I just don't know which character, because I think he could play a lot of these characters in this movie. But unfortunately, Michael Keaton, who has rage in terms of an actor, I mean,
That's tough.
and again, because
Batman actors and throw them in there instead.
That's a good point, right? Like what's his
Christian
name?
Bale.
Rob Pattinson could straight up do that. Like he
Actually, I
just
could
can.
see Christian Bale doing it because
Christian Bale knows that has the anger issue.
Yeah, he'll throw himself right in.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think who else.
I like Leonardo DiCaprio could be Peter Boyle because he's played megalomaniacs before.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Take the place of Stephen first, though.
I don't know why I didn't think of this. I think Daniel Radcliffe could do that too. He's a super good comic actor, like way better than he is given credit for.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, that could work.
I totally agree with you. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. I think this movie could be remade. I think they definitely could bring a little bit more in the forefront of the mental illness.
Seth
and actually,
Rogen can play Albert.
Did you say Seth Rogen?
He
I was going to say Seth Rogen. I was going to say Seth Rogen as well. But he'd be high half the time.
Yeah. But really the thing,
difference.
Yeah. The thing stopping this movie from getting made now is not casting. It's that studios just don't fund these sorts of things.
Oh no,
which is unfortunate. But I mean, I wish they would. It'd be nice. Maybe
Dr. Jamie Lee Curtis instead of a guy.
Ooh, I would welcome that.
Yeah,
because she's just a great actress.
Yeah, she is underrated all the time. I mean, she is. No, that's not true. She is appropriately rated, but I don't see enough of her.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
And that's her choice. That's what's so great about her. She chooses her projects.
She's careful. Yeah.
So I mean, every interview I have seen, she's gone back and played Dolores Stroller's character, and people are like, well, why are you doing this? You're X age, blah, blah. It's like, I'm doing it for my grandkids, or I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it for my family because I know they want me, so I could ask for more money, and then they can get more money later in life. And I'm like, damn, that's awesome. So she knows, I don't know. Everything I read and hear and watch about her, she's just awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, John Paul, I'm going to do your favorite. What's your favorite moment from the movie?
Oh, my favorite moment. I mean, I think I kind of gave it. It was definitely just Peter Boyle in the church scene. It's just, it's so funny and so entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to take it back. Peter Boyle in the scene when they are trying to get him new clothes. And they're like, okay, so we've got $12. What can we do with $12?
That's a good one, yeah.
And he just the way they're like, oh yeah, that looks great on you, and he's just got the weird vest and like Unabomber outfit. I don't know. It's really good.
Disturbing that the clothes they're wearing can pass today. Like a lot of the clothing is very dated. And you're like, you couldn't. But everything they're wearing, if they were walking around today in those clothes, nobody would have it on. It's so weird. It's actually timeless ensembles that they're all wearing. Not good ensembles, but
I mean, no, I mean, even the picture that you have on the back of your screen, I'm like, okay, they got a blue shirt, suit,
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirt,
It's fine.
members only jacket, and yeah, totally.
So
Yeah.
weird.
It is so weird.
Which is also kind of why they don't need to remake it, because aside from the fact that the Twin Towers are gone,
Yeah, that is another thing. Right away, when they flat out like mentioned the Twin Towers,
Like,
at
yeah,
the
straight in the
beginning,
script.
it's just like, ooh, wow, okay, well then, yeah, that's gone now.
All right,
But-
Joe, your favorite moments.
Oh man. My favorite moments are all small, right? But I really appreciate, I quote Jack all the time when Henry says that the nurse looks like Luca Brasi, and he's like, all God's creatures are beautiful. And Henry goes, not her. No, not her. Like that transition there, flawless. I think that's the best joke in the movie.
I like that one too.
I mean, you made me also remember one of my other favorite moments, the blood of Christ moment. I mean, he's
And a
just
damn good bottle of Beaujolais.
exactly. He's just like there. Oh,
What, Nick?
Peter Boyle, I just love him. I really do.
More Peter Boyle than you'll ever want to see in your life. But
I
there
mean,
it was.
so they showed his ass. It's okay.
It's a lot of
It's
Peter Boyle.
okay.
But they showed everything except his junk. That was the only
I
thing
mean,
about Peter Boyle.
But thankfully we
But.
know that he has an enormous snickerdoodle. So
yeah, exactly.
Because we learned that in Young Frankenstein.
we did.
That's right.
Yeah. So we didn't need to
Well,
see.
not anymore, actually, because Gene Wilder got it. Remember? That's what he traded the brain for.
Oh, you're so right. Damn it. So right.
Which may be why we don't see his junk.
Look at
Right.
somebody quoting movies, and she says she doesn't know movies.
Well, I know some movies, the really
Mhm.
bad ones, people are like, what's wrong?
That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. All right, so Jenny, let's wrap it up with your favorite moments.
So I have to mention that. So they play basically two songs the whole time in the movie, and I love them both. And I forgot how much I loved Was Not Was is Walking Dinosaur.
Boom, boom, back it up, boom,
I
boom,
really do
boom.
love it.
Look, I'm doing it for you. You asked me to
of
dance. I'm
course-
gonna dance. I'm gonna
There
dance.
you go.
Still a banger.
Open the door and get on.
That's right. Everybody walk that dinosaur. Yeah.
And of course, Hit the Road Jack, both Ray Charles and Western Point Dexter's versions are amazing. But I think if I really think about it, my favorite scene is the one where they escape prison. Because
Oh,
they
okay.
all get their moment, like they all get confronted with their psychoses while they're handing off the guns and stuff. Except for Billy, because this is quite in cue with his psychosis.
does,
You
yeah.
don't even fuck with him, but
Oh,
you got Albert there holding the gun on.
Give me the gun, Albert.
that scene he has in the restaurant also makes me really happy, because I've seen a lot of guys in restaurants that I wanted to face plant into their food.
That brings joy to my heart every time I watch that. Yeah,
Oh, God,
He's
yeah, it's
smacking
good.
his head down, and
So good. It's very good.
it is so good. But yeah, and then like after they get everybody locked away, and after like everybody's held the gun but Billy, ironically, and it had their moment. Like even when the psychiatrist goes to Peter Boyle's character's like, Jesus Christ would never hold a gun on a person. He's like, stay out of my psychosis.
Stay out of my psychosis. Great line.
And then they go to try to do a high five. And
It's
then
the
I always
dream
get
team.
I always get struck down, but this is what we called it was 1992 Olympic basketball team. And I think of that moment every time. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like my favorite overall scene, with the aside of, watching Michael Keaton slam somebody's head into a dessert plate for being a sexist pick who's
Yeah.
harassing a woman. Yeah. So I guess that wraps it up. I mean, final thoughts were all the consensus. Watch the movie. Play
Yeah.
your own casting game with it. Comment on our Facebook page. Tell us who you would cast it in it nowadays if you would, not do
Yeah,
older adult
fan
versions.
cast this. So
But-
yeah, for another wonderful episode. Hey Joe, we want to thank you for coming on as a guest.
Thank you
We
for
want to
having me.
remind anybody you can be a guest too, and even pick the movie. I mean, we are very, very fun people, and we very accepting people. And hey, join us. It's fun. This
And
has
if you're
been
shy about asking to be on it, you can get suckered in like Joe does just by commenting either on our What the Fuck Facebook page or on our own personal Facebook pages that, hey, I
it's
love
a
that movie. And then you'll get a message from
secret.
me or John Paul and be like, hey, so you like that movie, right?
It's a secret.
Sorry
We have
about that,
secret
Joe.
handshakes.
It was great. It was great. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for
Thank
being on
you.
there.
So this wraps up another fun episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? As always, I'm John Paul.
I'm Jenny. And we were joined by Joe. Have a great night,
Hello.
everyone.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.